I don't want to play with rushing anymore. That sentence hit like a fastball left out over at because this wasn't some random frustration after a tough inning. This was an ultimatum, an ace drawing a line in the sand, right before Game 2 ticks. Reports say Ohtani refused to start with rushing behind the plate, making it clear, I'm never pitching with him again. And just like that, the matchup didn't just change tactically, it changed personally. Then came the move that made everyone stop scrolling. Roberts acquired a new catcher in a 1-for-1 deal. Not later. Not after the season. Right now, because the team decided the chemistry issue wasn't later. It was a today problem. So the question is simple. If an ace changes catchers on principle, what does it actually mean for the game, and for his run toward the top awards? Let's break this down like analysts do, not with surface-level drama, but with what this kind of decision usually reveals. When you hear disrespectful behavior, most people assume it's just clubhouse noise. But in baseball, especially with a pitcher like Ohtani, disrespect rarely stays purely emotional for long. It usually becomes practical. Because pitch calling isn't just a button-pushing system. It's a live communication loop. If the catcher doesn't understand what the pitcher is trying to do, if the pitcher feels ignored, if signals get messy, if timing and positioning break down, then what looks like one minor issue becomes a real one, especially for a two-way superstar who carries the burden of control, execution, and precision. And in Game 1, in this reported scenario, the tone was already off. Ohtani doesn't just win by throwing hard. He wins by throwing specific shapes at specific moments. His fastball lives in velocity, but his real threat is that he can pair it with sharply braking movement and still make the plate look wrong for hitters. So when an elite pitcher senses the catcher can't match that mental rhythm, the pitcher starts to lose trust. And once trust goes, it shows up as missed targets. Not always on the scoreboard immediately, sometimes it shows up as almost strikes, pitches that miss by inches, or sequences where batters suddenly guess correctly. That's why Ohtani's ultimatum matters. It's not just, I'm mad. It's, I can't pitch to my standard with this situation. People think pitching is 90% mechanics and 10% confidence. But for a pitcher operating like Ohtani, especially in games where he's mixing power with sharp breaking stuff, pitching is closer to 100% communication. Signs and timing matter down to a fraction of a second when you're trying to sell one pitch and deliver another. Targeting inside and outside matters because Ohtani's best advantage is that batters can't lock onto the safe location, and if the catcher's receiving or target setup is inconsistent, the pitch plan changes. Pitch framing matters because the same pitch doesn't become the same strike if the glove work doesn't help it live in the zone. And reading hitter adjustments matters because the catcher is a live translator. He's sitting on this, he's laying off that, he's chasing low. So if Ohtani believed rushing wasn't supporting those areas, or worse, created friction, then avoiding the start becomes the rational move. Because one start sacrificed in May can prevent a larger breakdown later. An ace's job isn't only to survive a game. It's to protect the season. And right now, Ohtani is in the part of the calendar where games are stacking, and award races don't wait. When a player says, never again, it changes the pressure environment. And pressure is the hidden engine of performance. It forces everyone to tighten. The bullpen tightens behind the starter. The manager tightens decisions. The coaching staff tightens the plan. And most importantly, the pitcher tightens trust in each pitch sequence. Now, let's be honest, this is also a message to the organization. If you want Ohtani at maximum output, you need to make sure the catcher behind him can execute the ace script. Not a good enough script. Not we'll adjust later. The correct script. That's why Roberts acquiring a new catcher in a 1-for-1 deal wasn't just a roster move. It was a declaration that the pitching staff's performance is non-negotiable. Let's talk baseball, not headlines. When an ace gets a new catcher, the first impact is almost always pitch selection rhythm. Because Ohtani's success comes from delivering the right pitch at the right moment, fastball when hitters commit their eyes, sweeper or breaking ball when hitters think the fastball is coming, ground ball pitches when he needs outs without giving up damage. With a new catcher, even if talent level is similar, you can see different decisions, more confidence in low sweepers, different target zones, altered two-strike approaches. And you might also see how the catcher manages the feel of the game, where he sets up Ohtani's best weapons to look like strikes even when they're close. This is the part most fans miss. They think the pitcher is working alone. But in reality, the catcher is helping make the batter's job harder by changing what the batter believes is coming. Let's put ourselves in the Athletics' shoes. A hitter faces Ohtani and thinks, he'll throw hard, maybe I sit fastball. He'll chase swings, maybe I wait. But the sweeper makes the bat miss. That mental loop already drains energy. Now imagine this: the catcher behind the plate changes. Even subtly, the batter may feel the ball isn't coming from the exact same glove target, the called pitch doesn't show the same body language, the strike zone appears different. And that's dangerous for any batter, because hitters don't just hit pitches. They hit patterns. If the pattern shifts, even by a little, the hitter loses certainty. And if there's one thing that drives hitters crazy, it's this: they can't decide what to wait for. They don't know whether to gear up for the high fastball, or trust the break that disappears out of the zone. Ohtani's game is built for that confusion. That's why even on days where his strikeouts don't look perfect, his presence still controls outcomes. I thought it was rather interesting when the ultimatum was reported, because it highlights something deeper than conflict. Most catcher drama is treated like a side story. But with Ohtani, it's always about performance. And the performance standard is high. If Ohtani believed he couldn't trust the receiving, signals, or relationship enough to pitch at full capacity, then avoiding the start wasn't avoidance. It was protection. Because ace value isn't just a perfect outing. It's the ability to remain an ace when something is off. And apparently this time, the something was significant enough that he demanded a reset. That is maturity. Not every superstar would say it so bluntly. Not every team would move so quickly. But the combination of both tells you this is real. This is where the story becomes bigger than one game. A pitcher's award race depends on innings, consistency, minimizing bad stretches, and keeping command stable. If an ace feels the catcher situation is compromised, it can create a chain reaction: slightly more pitches per inning, slightly more traffic, slightly less efficiency, slightly more innings risk. That can snowball. So by changing catchers before it snowballs, Ohtani and Roberts are essentially saying we're not gambling with the season. And that matters especially when the league is always pushing for the next elite storyline: runners on, late inning pressure, award voting, and media narratives. Roberts making the move now preserves what matters most: control over the details. Let's go back to the pitcher-hitter battle. A hitter can survive velocity. A hitter can survive break. But the hardest part is the uncertainty. Is it the fastball now? Is it a sweeper low? Is it a strike I can take? Or is it a ball I'm going to swing at by mistake? Ohtani forces that hesitation. And even if you get a look at the fastball, his ability to pair it with sharp breaking movement still makes the swing decision late. With a catcher change, the Athletics face a new setup. So if the new catcher calls pitches with cleaner sequences, or allows Ohtani's strengths to show more consistently, then Game 2 could become another example of control that doesn't need perfect strikeouts to be dominant. If you want to judge whether this was a smart baseball decision, and not just headline drama, watch for a few things in Game 2. Does the first inning pitch quality match Ohtani's strengths immediately? Is he able to execute breaking pitches for strikes or get easy ground balls on 2-strike counts? And does the inning-ending pitch look cleaner, with fewer almost pitches, when the situation gets tight late? Because the catcher relationship usually shows up fastest in these moments. At the end of the day, that reported sentence, "I'm never pitching with him again," isn't just conflict. It's a standard. It's Ohtani saying, if I'm going to carry this team, I need the setup to match my level. And Roberts responding with a one-for-one catcher acquisition is a sign the organization understands that pitching isn't only on the mound. It's behind the plate, in the rhythm between signs, targets, and trust. So what happens now? Game 2 becomes more than a matchup against the Athletics. It becomes a test. Can the new catcher lock in quickly, Can Ohtani execute his ace-level control, and can this avoid the kind of small issues that grow into seasonal problems? That's the real story. What did you think about Ohtani's ultimatum and Robert's quick response? Was it necessary? Or do you think this is the kind of clubhouse moment that could create even more pressure? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because Game 2 isn't just a game now. It's a statement.